Bisexuals who have dated both genders. What little differences surprised you?
Story 1.
The first time I dated a woman, I wasn't ready for the lower libido. The men I dated were deeply grateful, and would instantly fire up when I'd tackle them after a long day. The women just weren't. Also, I was used to giving nearly no effort, and being able to get a man erotically excited. Like I could just touch him, or even languidly stretch, and he'd want me. It was work to get her face up my skirt. This is something I still struggle with. I female, can just be touched or looked at a certain way, and I'm ready to go. My partner needs more slow touch and foreplay, which is something I'm still learning how to accommodate.
Story 2.
Bisexual woman here. Dated both. All different types of men. All different types of women. As far as sex goes, I've noticed that many men tend to have this logical sort of approach to sex and making a woman end. I.e., if I rub the clit like this in this pattern for X amount of time, or do X thing for X long, she'll end. If I press the red button, the explosion will happen. Then I'll duck her till I'm done. And then it's over. The foreplay can sometimes feel forced, almost as if they're just trying to move on to the next thing, even if they're a man who truly cares about their partner's pleasure. It can feel too straight thinking. Did you end? No. Why? I did everything right. On the other hand, I've found that women care less about the actual ending part, but rather about the experience and the journey. There's much more emphasis on the atmosphere, the subtle flirting throughout the whole date. Not just when things are getting heated. When they take your clothes off and start to touch your body. They're not touching you to just please themselves, but rather to worship your body and appreciate its beauty. Each move is less intentional and less rational, and more about enjoying the touch of another beautiful human. There's a reason why women who love women sex is stereotyped to last hours. Because it does. There's beauty in the journey. Men eat puss like there's a WikiHow to eat puss article playing in their head. Women eat puss like they're making out with a lover. I think this is a main reason why I've reached ending with every single woman I've slept with. But almost zero men. Women completely take you into a different world and distract you from any mental blocks that could keep you from an ending. It's all about the atmosphere and comfortability. Sometimes I feel like men make you hyper-aware of your body's Bisexual processes. The aforementioned patterned, lit, rubbing, etc., which ironically makes the sexy parts of you feel less sexy. And since the female ending is such a mental thing, if the mental space is clouded, it's hard to get there. This is in no way to bash men. Just my 2 cents and my own personal experience, and I hope it can help someone. What I got out of this is to not be afraid to just be weird in bed. That sex for the sake of sex is useless, and that it's alright just being affectionate, no need to force anything. I think the issue comes from male logic of, which is the end goal of this task, namely sex. And they think, oh, ending. But forget about the journey part. And sure, if you are focused on the ending, of course you are gonna look into it like that. 'Cause you are just trying to duck them as you burk of yourself. And that would make sense if it were you and your hand. But it's 2 persons now, and you gotta think about their experience too. And eating puss is like kissing part is also quite interesting perspective.
Story 3.
As a taller woman, 5 feet 10-ish. The height difference. Most men I've dated were around my height. Maybe a bit taller or shorter. The first woman I dated was 5 feet 3 inch. It felt strange. Not weird or awkward. Just different. My college roommate was a 6 feet dude. He had a fling with a female volleyball player that was 6 feet 5 inch. He said it was fun, but felt so weird not being the big one. In my experience, it's not even about what gender the person is, or even if there's any kind of relationship at all. One time in a public restroom, the man in the next door stall and I happened to look in each other's direction, and made direct eye contact from about 3 feet apart. We were both startled, and he visibly recoiled. We both sat down. There was a brief silence. Then, from him, "I'm just not used to people being that tall." "Yeah, right," I replied. Either he left first or I did. Can't remember. Never saw each other again. When you spend most of your life sometimes head and shoulders above everybody, meeting and interacting with people of the same stature or taller than you is a major departure from what you're used to. As a 5 feet 3 inch lesbian, LOL. I fully accept and understand that a lot of people are just going to be taller than me. But it is nice to have a dating pool where the average is 5 feet 7 inch or lower, in my experience. I also feel that height differences are sometimes less noticeable or less intimidating with women. Maybe it's because a 5 feet 10 inch man is usually also bigger and more filled out in other ways. But a 5 feet 10 inch woman still feels equal to me, even if I'm much shorter. I don't know if I'm explaining it right. Oh, I can absolutely relate to this from the other perspective. I don't care about height and height differences that much, but I do catch myself being insecure about my height when I'm seeing a man who's shorter than me. I feel like I'm taking up way too much space next to them. Never had that feeling when it came to women, though.
Story 4.
Dated both. Exactly 50-50, funnily enough. The biggest difference I noticed was the women tended to react immediately while the men sat back and watched for a while. Like when there was a problem, the women wouldn't tell me outright. They wanted me to notice it on my own, which makes discussion complicated. How am I supposed to know what I did wrong if you only give me the silent treatment, without telling me what upset you in the first place? The men I dated usually let things slide a few times, and approached me directly if something really bothered them. Very clearly so, sometimes even painfully honest. But I knew what was going on. The good times I had with women were really good. But the bad times were absolutely terrible. With the men it balanced out more. It was never as intense, but also never as exhausting. Which is why in the end I went with dating mostly men. It seemed more sustainable to me in the long run.
Story 5.
Naturally, there's a billion disclaimers, but these are the things I can think of based on my personal anecdotal experience. Their bodies feel almost completely different. Like women are 3 different types of soft. Men can have soft bits, but they're not all the soft. Men fall apart easier when you're using a strap on them. Disagreements with women feel more resolved, but come up more randomly. Edit. Fall apart equal. A shivering sticky mess that didn't believe in a god until they saw one during their last ending.
Story 6.
I'm very late for this conversation. But in my experience, men treat sex as a first-person shooter, and women treat it like an escape room. Men know what the goal is, and do all the things they know how to do to reach that goal. Unfortunately, that goal is mostly their own ending. And when you meet one who makes your own ending a side quest, it's so rare as to be notable. More pressure to perform, less fun, sometimes more intense if you're in the mood for that sort of single-minded focus. Women treat sex like a fun thing you are doing together. And you try a bunch of things, and have a lot of fun, and look for clues together. And if you escape the room ending, that's super. But you had fun with someone you like either way. Less pressure, more fun. Most straight men have a very narrow perspective about the point of sex to their detriment. I once knew a bisexual man who treated sex like an escape room, and I cherish his memory so fondly you would not believe.